Open Telekom Cloud is not only secure and affordable, it's also easy to use. We've developed some new features, and we would like to show you two of them. Open Telekom Cloud now also offers a Relational Database Service, or RDS. Databases store and process data in a structured way. Creating the RDS is simple. Many of the settings, such as the instance name and the database type and version, are already suggested. In addition, you can choose between various different specifications, such as the size of the underlying virtual machine. There are two types of storage media to choose from, one with standard transfer speeds and one with very high speeds. The size of the storage can be determined individually. The database must be assigned to a subnet. Open Telekom Cloud will suggest one from the pool of existing subnets. You will then need to set an administrator password, which should be as secure as possible. For a high availability database, you can add a standby database to the primary installation. You can also set a backup policy. The backup policy will create backup copies of the data at the times that you specify. This means that your data will be saved in the event of a system failure and will be easy to restore. When you click Submit Now, the order will be submitted and then reviewed again. The overview shows the database cluster, the primary database, and the twin, the standby instance, which ensures high availability. It takes a few minutes to generate. Read replicas are copies of the databases with read permissions only. If necessary, for security or performance reasons, you can add up to 5 read replicas to a cluster. This is done in the More tab by clicking Create Read Replica. After a few minutes, there will be a primary database, a standby database, and a read replica database in the cluster. You can view the cluster in more detail in Information. In the Backup and Restore tab, you can carry out a manual backup or change the backup policy that is set. The Log Management shows warnings under error logs. This function serves to monitor database work and optimize performance. Show Query Log shows how the queries to the database are processed. This allows the user's SQL queries to be optimized. Here, you can also define alarm rules that notify you automatically by SMS or email if the burden on the database is too high, for example. The dashboard gives you an overview of the current status of your databases. Another new feature of the Open Telekom Cloud is the Cloud Container Engine, or CCE. It's a platform to develop, deploy, and host container apps. In order to run the Cloud Container Engine, we need to create a cluster first. First, name the cluster. Then choose the number of nodes. That means the number of virtual machines. Also, there are many different node specifications to choose from quite small ones to large ones. Then select the virtual private cloud you want to run your container in, which subnet you want the cluster to run on, and which SSH certificate you're going to use. Agree to use the certificate to access the tenant's object store. CCE can work with public registries, but we also provide a private registry where your Docker images can be stored. The next thing is to look at your registry and to download the certificate file, which is generated by the Open Telekom Cloud. Now, as an example, let's create a WordPress application. First, we need to create the component templates we need for the application. In this case, we're creating 2 component templates, one for WordPress and one for a MySQL database that WordPress uses. Let's start with the container for WordPress. We're using an external image. What we also do is to select the network protocol, which is TCP, and the port, which is 80. And then you have to give it a minimum amount of memory, which in this case is 64 megabytes. Also, give it a minimum amount of CPU resource, at least 100 millicores. But because we also selected Support CPU Overweight, it automatically switches to more if the application needs it. Then click OK, and the template is created. Now, WordPress also needs a database, which is MySQL, so let's create that. We do the same procedure for the database, and we now have 2 containers. From these containers, we can design an application. So, add a new design and name it WordPress. We have to create modules first, so we drag them over to the canvas. And we call them WordPress and MySQL. Then we put a container inside the first module and name it WordPress container. The image is also WordPress. Set the image source to external if you want to import an external image from a public repository. It can also be internal if you use an image that's already located in your Open Telekom Cloud repository. Now the container needs some information on how to find the database. Of course, we also need a port. Set its name to WordPress. The port is 80. And quite important, the service name is also WordPress. Now we have to adjust the second container, the MySQL container. And we also put a container into that module. Set it to external, give it an image, and select a container environment. In this case, the port is 3306, and the service name is WordPress DB. It's very important that the service name between WordPress and MySQL matches, otherwise they can't communicate. And then you just connect the two and deploy the application. Give it a name and click OK. The WordPress application is now deployed. Via the public IP, you see that it's available and allocated on an external port. Now you can start working with WordPress to set up your blog or website. Open Telekom Cloud. It's as easy as that.